So today I'm reading Heaven is for Real by Todd Berto, and I'm reading the prologue and chapter 1 today. So, the 4th of July holiday calls up memories of patriotic parades, the savory scent of smoked barbecue, sweet corn, and night skies bursting with showers of light. But for my family, the July 4th weekend of 2003 was a big deal for other reasons. My mom Sonja and I had planned to take the kids to visit Sonja's brother Steve and his family in Sojux Fall, South Dakota. It would be our first chance to meet our nephew, Bennett, born 2 months earlier. Plus our kids Cassie and Colin had never been to the falls before. Yes, there really is a Sojux Falls in Sojux Falls. But the biggest deal of all was this trip would be the first time we left our hometown of Naperto, Nebraska, since a family trip to Greenlee, Colorado in March had turned into the worst nightmare of our lives. To put it bluntly, the last time we had taken a family trip, one of our children almost died. Call us crazy, but we were a little apprehensive this time, almost to the point of not wanting to go. Now, as a pastor, I'm not a believer in superstition. Still, some weird, unsettling part of me felt that if we just hunkered down close to home, we'd be safe. Finally, thought reasons and the lure of meeting little Bennett, whom Steve had told us was the world's cutest baby, won out. So we packed up a weekend's worth of Alaska in our blue Ford expansion and got our family ready to head north. Sonja and I decided the best plan would be to get most of the driving done at night. That way, even thought Colin would be strapped into his car seat against his 4-year-old. I'm a big kid. Well, at least he'd sleep for most of the trip. So it was a little after 8 p.m. when I backed the expedition out of the driveway, steered past Crossroads Wesley Church, my pasture, and hit Highway 61. The night spread clear and bright across the plains, a half-moon white against a velvet sky, and Prologue is a small farming town tucked just inside the western border of Nebraska with only 2,000 souls and 0 traffic lights. It's the kind of town with more churches than banks, where farmers stream straight off the field into the family-owned cafe at lunchtime, wearing Wolverine work boots, John Deere ball caps, and a pair of pliers for fence mending hanging off their hips. So Cassie, age 6, and Colin were excited to be on the road to the big city of Soma Falls to meet their newborn cousin. The kids chatted for 90 miles to the city of North Platte, with Colin fighting action figure superhero battles and saving the world several times on the way. It wasn't quite 10 p.m. when we pulled into the town of about 24,000, whose greatest claim to fame is that it was the hometown of the famous Wild West showman Buffalo Bill Cody. North Platte would be about the last civilized stop, or at least the last open stop we'd pass that night, as we headed northeast across vast stretches of cornfield empty of everything but deer, pheasants, and occasional farmhouse. We had planned in advance to stop there to top off both the gas tank and our bellies. After a fill-up at Sinclair gas station, we pulled out onto Jefferson Street, and I noticed we were passing through the traffic light where if we turned left, we'd wind up at the Great Plains Regional Medical Center. That was where we spent 15 nightmarish days in March, much of it on our knees, praying for God to spare Colin's life. God did, but Sonja and I joked that the experience shaved years off our own lives. Sometimes laughter is the only way to proceed tough times. As we passed to turn off, I decided to rib Colin a little. "Hey, Colin, if we turn here, we can go back to the hospital," I said. "Do you want to go back to the hospital?" Our preschooler giggled in the dark. "No, Daddy, don't send me back. Send Cassie. Cassie can go to the hospital." Sitting next to him, his sister laughed. "Nuh-uh, I don't want to go either." In the passenger seat, Sonja turned so that she could see our son, whose car seat was parked behind mine. I pictured his blonde crew cut and his sky blue eyes shining in the dark. "Do you remember the hospital, Colin?" Sonja said. Yes, Mommy, I remember, he said. That's where the angels sang to me. Inside the expedition, time froze. Sonja and I looked at each other, passing a silent message. Did he just say what I think he said? Sonja leaned over and whispered, Has he talked to you about angels before? I shook my head. You? She shook her head. I spotted a Arby's pulled into the parking lot and switched off the engine. White light from a street lamp filtered into the expedition, twisting my seat. I peered back at Colin, and in that moment, I was struck by his smallest, his little boyish. He was really just a little guy who spoke with an endearing and sometimes embarrassing, call it like you see it, innocent. If you're a parent, you know what I mean. The age where a kid might point to a pregnant lady and ask very loudly, Daddy, why is that lady so fat? Colin was in the narrow window of life where he hadn't yet learned either tact or guilt. All these thoughts flashed through my mind as I tried to figure out how to respond to my 4-year-old's simple proclamish that angels has sung to him. Finally, I plugged in. Colin, you said that angels sang to you while you were at the hospital. He nodded his head vigorously. What did they sing to you? Colin turned his eyes up to the right. The as you remember. Well, they sang Jesus Loves Me and Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho, he said earnestly. I asked them to sing We Will Rock You, but they wouldn't sing that. As Cassie jiggled softly, I thought Colin's answer had been quick and matter-of-fact without a hint of hesitation. Sonja and I exchanged glances again. What's going on? Did he have a dream in the hospital? And one more unspoken question. What do we say now? A natural question popped in my head. Colin, what did the angels look like? He chuckled at what seemed to be a memory. Well, one of them looked like Grandpa Dennis, but it wasn't him, because Grandpa Dennis has glasses. Then he grew serious. Dad, Jesus had the angels sing to me because I was scared. They made me feel better. Jesus? I glanced at Sonja and saw that her mouth had dropped open. I turned back to Colin. You mean Jesus was there? My little boy nodded as thought, reporting nothing more remarkable than seeing a ladybug in the front yard. Yeah, Jesus was there. Well, where was Jesus? Colin looked me right in the eye. I was sitting in Jesus' lap. If there are stop buttons on conversations, that was one of them right there. Astonished into speechlessness, Sonja and I looked at each other and passed another silent telegram. Okay, we really need to talk about this. We all piled out of the expedition and trooped in the Arby's, emerging a few minutes later with a bag of grub, in between Sonja and I exchanged whispers. Do you think he really saw angels and Jesus? I don't know. Was it a dream? I don't know. He seemed so sure. Back in the SUV, Sonja passed out roast beef sandwiches and potato cakes, and I ventured another question. Colin, where were you when you saw Jesus? He looked up at me as if to say, didn't we just talk about this? At the hospital, when Dr. O'Halloran was working on me. Well, Dr. O'Halloran worked on you a couple times, remember? I said Colin had both an emergency appendix and then appendix clean out in the hospital. And later we had taken Colin to have some cardiac scanning removed. But that was at Dr. Holland's office. Are you sure it was at the hospital? Colin nodded. Yeah, at the hospital. When I was with Jesus, you were praying and Mommy was talking on the phone. What? That was definitely meant he was talking about the hospital. But how in the world did he know where we had been? But you were in the operating room, Colin. I said, how could you know what we were doing? 'Cause I could see you, Colin said. Matter-of-factly, I went out of my body and was looking down, and I could see the doctors working on me. And I saw you and Mommy. You were in a little room by yourself praying, and Mommy was in a different room, and she was praying and talking on the phone. Colin's words rocked to my core. Sonja's eyes were wider than ever, but she said nothing, just stared at me and absently bit into her sandwich. That was all the information I could handle at that point. I started the engine, steered the expedition back onto the street, and pointed us towards South Dakota. As I hit 180, pasture lands unrolled on either side, dotted here and there with duck ponds that glittered in the moonlight. But by then, it was very late, and soon everyone else was snoozing as planned. As the road hummed underneath me, I marveled at the things I just heard. A little boy had some had said some pretty incredible stuff, and he had backed it up with incredible information, things that no way he could have known. We had not told him what we were doing while he was in surgery, under anesthesia, apparently unconscious. Over and over, I kept asking myself, how could he have known? But by the time we rode across the South Dakota state line, I had another question. Could this be real? So I'm done the prologue, but I don't have time to start chapter 1, so I'll do that next video. Bye!